We're going to remove the paper clips from all of our pieces and hope that we didn't manage to glue the mechanisms down. That happens from time to time. And if it does, well, oh, like that one. I glued that one down. So I'll grab my little picking tool, and I was able to free that one. I'm setting these aside as I take the paper clips off. And remember, I'm doing 2 cards at a time here. So you may only have 1 set of these, or maybe you decided to do 2 cards too. Now we're gonna put like pieces with like, well, I'm gonna put like pieces with like pieces. Okay, so in this card in which we used the Campology and the mountain dies, we already put our mountain in the back. Now we're going to put our trees in, and I don't have any glue on this yet, but I'm just going to kind of place the trees in there, see where I want them to be. I don't want to be able to see below the bottom of the mountain. See, so I want to move the trees up a little bit higher. Okay, I like that. So I'm going to pull out the glue, and I'm going to glue. And remember, I like to use just Elmer's school glue. Stampin' Up! Has a whole bunch of other glues you can use. I'm going to apply the glue to the front part of this tab that we have now hanging off of our piece. So it's a, see how well I can get that. See, it's a hinge right there. We're going to do that on both sides. And remember, those trees you see on the back are from when I did a bad job stamping this earlier in the video. Okay, so we've got the glue on both of those hinges. We are going to poke that through the window of the card. And depending on where we put the hinges, the trees might want to lay nearly flat with the mountains. Well, we don't want that. So might need to use, I use the paintbrush to hold the hinge where I need it to be on one side, and using my finger on the other. We just kind of want to get it secure in there. Oh, you can't really see what I'm doing. We want to, oh, and we don't want that section to be too far up in the card. Otherwise, it'll in the window, because otherwise it'll interfere with the placement of the next layer. So we can, while we're waiting for this to set, fold the card over the way that we're going to stick it in the envelope, and we should be able to work this in both directions. And I always, with these cards, end up with one direction folding better than the other. So we want that to set up. Keep in mind that if we were sloppy with our glue, we might have just glued our trees to our mountains. So now we've got the bottom layer, that's the water with the trees and the tent. We're going to put glue on these hinges right here. And then we're going to position this in the card as well. So we're going to carefully put the glue on these hinges also. Trying to be neat about it so that we don't accidentally glue our card together. Can't tell you how many times I've done that on these projects. So now we're going to bend this a little bit to put it in the card as well. And we want this layer to pretty much line up with the bottom of the card. And we don't necessarily want it to be so far forward that it rests on the frame of the card, because, I don't know, that would kind of defeat the purpose of it being three-dimensional in my mind. And, of course, mine doesn't want to cooperate. So, you know, it might take some finagling to get it to work. Right now, I'm holding down one piece with my thumb. And I'm going to go to the other side and hold down that hinge with my finger. And as you can see, or maybe you can't see, I've been a little bit sloppy with my glue, unfortunately. Got some glue on the outside frame of this card. Hopefully you were a little bit neater with the glue than I was. So here we are. I'm working the hinge both ways. Oh, this fell down a little bit in my card while I did that. So, you know, I'm going to have to carefully unglue that. I can do that with my picker tool. Okay. And my problem there was that this front layer, in my opinion, got too close to the true layer. Now I think it's too close to the frame. Okay, we're going to roll with that. And you can see here that my trees could have actually gone down a little bit more. So you can start to see the water from the stamp in the tree, and it doesn't really mix well or blend nicely into this layer. So in order to prevent that, I would need my mountains to be down lower and my trees to be down lower. And my mountains aren't really, they're kind of coming undone because remember we used double-sided tape, so I might be able to fix that. Anyway, I'm going to do that off camera. You might need to do some finagling as well, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how we can put the cloud in there. We can put the cloud in there so that it's not just pasted against the sky. And then I'm going to put the mountains and the trees into my other card. And then I'm going to show you how I put the pheasants in there so that they're flying and they're not just glued to the glued to one of the backgrounds either. And for that, we're going to need some clear plastic. So here's some clear plastic that I used in my sample card. You can use Mylar, or this is actually clear packaging off of just something that I bought. So you know that annoying clear packaging that can be really tough to cut? That's exactly what this is. So basically I cut the flat parts of that packaging into strips and I throw it in my scrap box so that I can use it on these projects. But I did order some Mylar because that's really fun to deal with. Basically, it's stencil material. I dealt a lot with Mylar when I was doing graphic design and working at the blueprint shop. And the Mylar we dealt with was kind of a foggy color. This will be clear Mylar that I've ordered, just like this is clear plastic, but it's a fun product. So I'm going to go off camera. I'm going to finagle the pieces of my cards and I will come back and I'll show you what I came up with and then I'll show you how to put those other pieces in. So I decided to put together this next card, the 3 layers on camera, because I made up, I discovered some things as I was putting together the other one. So if I'd planned ahead and in future cards, I will make the tabs on the bottom layer longer and I'll progressively make the tabs shorter. And if I'd waited to cut all of the tabs until after tabs or hinges, I've called them both, until after I had all of them glued to the back of the card, then that would have made this a whole lot easier. And I'm going to put this one together in reverse. So for this one, I'm going to put the first layer in. That's the closest one. That's the water, because this one lines up with the bottom of the card. And then I'm going to put in the trees, and then I'm going to put in the mountains. So actually, I decided just now I'm not going to do that on camera. I've just described how to do it. So you can do it that way too if you like, or we can all do it on future cards. I'm putting in the tree layer, and I've already got it fitted in the card where I want it. And I've got glue on both tabs, and you can't see what I'm doing inside the card necessarily. Let's see if I can turn that. But what I've done is one side at a time, I'm sticking the paintbrush in there. And I'm holding down the tab with the bottom of the paintbrush, or the handle of the paintbrush. And I'm going to do that on both sides. And it might mean that I end up needing to put more glue on the second hinge. We'll find out. Oh, and you know what? I forgot to make the fussy cut along the along the water on this one. Okay, so I need to put more glue on this hinge. Fortunately, I can just kind of bend it out of the card like this. That actually might be how I start gluing these from now on, is to get them in the card and then just pull the layer out one at a time. Okay, so I'm being careful not to make this layer flush with the previous layer because it's supposed to be a three-dimensional card. Making it flush would kind of defeat the purpose. Stick our finger in there, get rid of some of that glue, and we can fold the card over and kind of let it set up. And it looks like my hinge on this side might not be happy with me, but we're going to roll with it. Okay, now we're going to put the mountains in. So these are probably going to need slight, I don't have any glue on the hinges right now. I'm going to need a little bit smaller hinges for this, but I just wanted to put the mountain in there and get it positioned. And now one hinge at a time, one side at a time, I can pull the mountain out of the card. I just kind of popped it out of the top. I can glue. And because I cut this hinge so short, I should just be able to let that hinge rest on the back side of the card. That seemed to work pretty well. So that's still wet. I've turned the card around. I'm going to cut the second hinge so that it's shorter. I'm going to glue that. And going to push that down into the card. Going to fold the card over. And I'm going to actually do this both sides. Like I've said before, a lot of times one side will fold better than the other. Now, something that you've probably noticed with my card, I had a weight on the other card. I should have and could have moved the tent and the tree over some more. And I can do a couple of things. I can do another of these trees, which I probably will. And when I say do, I mean I can die cut another of these trees and I can put it in there so that I have some more tree over here. And I think I'm going to do that. So I'm going to fold both of these the way they like to be folded. I'm going to set my weight on top of them. And I'm going to grab my plastic pieces, my clear plastic pieces. I'm also going to die cut a couple more of those trees from that Stampin' Up mountain set. I'm going to go off camera to do that.